One Piece chapter 1084. This is absolutely huge. So Cobra pulls up in there, and Cobra, mad respect to this dude, man. Cobra's like, yo, like, there's some trickery going on here. History ain't lining up. I want some answers. We got battles taking place. We got Death of Scumbags. We got Emu showing up. Woo! Oda was in his bag on this one, baby. Oda was in his bag. So backing things up, though, we see as Sabo is clearing out some of the enemies around. He and Bonney, they end up speaking, and Sabo's like, okay, so you're Bonney, you're Kuma's daughter. I had heard that he had a daughter. They enter into a pact to agree to start working with each other, and she says, like, I can trust you guys because I've been keeping up with what the revolutionary is doing. Karasu shows up. He's got the keys that are given to him. Essentially, he gets told, like, these keys, they'll get the slaves free. They'll get Kuma free. We get a moment where Bonney is explaining her goals. She's like, hey, we are going to get my father free. I'm going to leave that to you. I'm going to go to Egghead. I'm going to start demanding answers from Dr. Vegapunk. I need answers as to what he did to my father and why he can't turn him back in the way he should have been. And I'm going to make him turn him back to the way that he should be. And as they start talking and as they start plotting out what it is they're going to start doing, Sabo senses that somebody's coming because he hears it. And Sabo grabs Bonney, jumps, amazing strength feat, by the way, jumps up into the air, gets on one of those overhead columns. And that's where Sabo, because they're silent, they're able to listen in. And we get some very interesting information where we find out that there's a lost chamber here and that people go missing when they find said lost chamber. And after Sabo ends up disappearing with Bonney and he and Bonney say their goodbyes, he says, like, Egghead's out in the new world. If that's where you're going to be going, you're going in that direction. However, we're going in the opposite direction. And Bonney has a moment where she says that it feels kind of weird to her to have the revolutionaries helping her out, but she knows that they're going to do right by her father. And she says, take care of my dad for me. And then that's where everything just gets super interesting. And like, I reread this part of the chapter like 3 times. Like, Cobra is standing there with the audience and he's like, I got questions. And he starts going through the history. And anytime when somebody asks you, hey, what do you want from us? And then they start recounting stuff of what you already know, you know it's going down. Because that's anytime you do that, that's essentially them saying, I know that you know this, but I'm going to put all the facts on the table and I want you to look me in my eyes and tell me the questions that I'm asking are out of line here. And so we find out what happened when the world government got set up. There were 20 groups of kings and all of them were given the status of celestial dragon. They all lived on this island all together. They were part of the first 20 dynasties. The names of those different dynasties, they have changed over time. There's an empty throne, and because they basically made the idea that there won't actually be a king, they all place down different swords. However, Alabasta is different. We still have the family name that we have of the original king, in particular the original monarch, Lili Nefertiti. Lili Nefertiti, she was counted amongst the first 20, but she didn't become a celestial dragon. Instead, they said that she chose to return to Alabasta to continue the Nefertiti line in her homeland. However, she never came. But what's interesting is that there are only 19 swords that are surrounding the throne itself. And as they start saying, well, hey, well, what's your point? He's like, well, Lili's name is mentioned nowhere. She didn't come back to Alabasta. Her younger brother took the throne instead. I need answers. What happened to my ancestor? And they're like, oh man, you know, that was 800 years ago, fam. Like, that stuff is just lost in history. And that's where Cobra's like, yeah, you know, it's funny you say that about lost in history because a lot of stuff in the void period, that's lost in history as well too. Nobody got answers on that. I just see a lot of interesting coincidences going on. But, you know, in that 800 years, you know, there have been a letter that has been getting passed down to the kings in my family, the queens in my family. What's going on with the D? What is the D? That letter we got is 800 years old as well. And they're just staring daggers at him. And at that point, I became crystal clear. It's obvious There's no way in hell that Cobra was killed by Sabo. One of these people did it. It might have actually been Emu. We'll get there in a moment. And so essentially, as he's asking these questions and they're staring dagger in his face, we shift over where the son of that celestial dragon, the one that had the hard on for Shirahoshi, has her tied up. And if I didn't know she was a minor, I would make a joke about bondage stuff, because like Oda, like, dog, you know what you're doing here. But it's one of those things. Well, I guess she wouldn't be a minor now, because like it's been a time skip since we saw her on Fishman Island, if I'm not mistaken. But it's one of those things where you kind of see it, and you see just how far these celestial dragons are willing to go, and how even though Shirahoshi is a princess, her title means nothing here. And that title basically is just something in name only. And what we see is that the dude's like, dirty, dirty, dirty kanji. Dirty kanji. He's like, you'll be my pet. I'll be the only one riding you. That's definitely an Inuito. I feel completely confident saying that Oda is a self-admitted pervert. And essentially it's like, if you don't obey, then I will do unspeakable things to you. Like, it's like, yo, like the implications are there. And so what ends up happening is that Fukaboshi ends up showing up, and he's like, yo, that's it. You getting your hands off of Shirahoshi. I'm about to start throwing hands. And Kuma ends up fighting back on behalf of Celestial Dragon. And you have people saying, we can't actually strike back against them, because if we do, that's going to be the end of our kingdom. The citizens that we're watching, they run away because they don't want anything caught up because of how the Celestial Dragons are. And so as soon as that starts happening, Rebecca ends up running forward. And it's like, okay, Rebecca's going to do something. Like Rebecca, you know, she was fighting in the Coliseum for forever. Like, I'm like, okay, we're going to see my girl actually get into action. However, that's not what takes place. So just as it seems like things are about to get super crazy, Leo ends up springing into action. And between Leo and Sai, they start going straight for the Celestial Dragon, and they hammer him, and they just kill him. Or it looks like they kill him, because they smash his head in. If he lives from that, that's one of those things where, like, dog, this is fiction, I get it, but like that should be a death. And so essentially they're saying, oh my God, it's a murder scene. This is the murder of a Celestial Dragon. The admirals are going to get called. And that's where Kuma ends up getting the keys. And now we find out about how Kuma is going on the rampage and everything, because he's told to return home. Well, what we end up seeing is that like the father of Celestial Dragons, like, oh my God, my son. And we shift back over and we see this cloaked figure walking up the other side of the steps. And Emu ends up sitting on the throne. And the elders like, oh my God, like King Cobra, he's still present. Are you sure you want to do this? And in that moment, I'm like, okay, dead, 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 dead. Like, my man is gone. And Emu only says one word, Lili. And he sits down on the throne. Or she, because we don't know Emu's gender. But it's one of those things where the idea that somebody's sitting on that throne and what those swords symbolize, and that the Nefertiti family never put down that sword, the same reason that Cobra is about to get killed is the same reason that Lili likely got killed as well. And that's gonna be my chapter question, you guys. How do you guys feel about Cobra choosing now to actually go forward and start questioning the five elders about what happened during that void period, about what happened when the world government was founded, and most importantly, how do you feel about that foreshadowing that set this up? Because he did say, I worry about my tomboy of a daughter. Because I think Cobra knew that he was probably going to die, and he needed somebody to keep his daughter from doing something stupid. But, so always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Have an awesome day, guys.